You feel this nervousness on the phone there?
Sir, I've been trying to make an urgent phone call up there.
Well, I don't think it's something I want to do on an overseas phone.
You gotta make some phone calls. Hang up the phone. Prank caller. Prank caller.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Packernet After Dark. This is the call-in show, the Packernet Podcast Network. If you'd like to call in, if you'd like to participate in the show, please feel free to do so. The phone number here is 608-501-0718. New callers go directly to the front of the line. I think we do have a new caller here. New caller, what's going on?
With the signing of Banks and then picking up Belton, there's a lot that's been made about how much bigger we are getting on the offensive line. I was wondering if there's been any kind of comparison of where we stand weight-wise with the rest of the league. Like, are we, in the middle, or are we lower coming out last year? Where would we stand with these two new offensive linemen? Thank you.
That is a good question. I'm trying to run it through my head how I could possibly do that. I mean, obviously you could manually do it. It would take a little while. I'm going to look into that. I'm going to see. If nothing else, we can compare how much our weight has gone up. We'd have to kind of guess a little bit in terms of who's playing where. But if we assume, for example, that it's Belton and Morgan in place of Sean Ryan and Rasheed Walker, then we can kind of go from there and see what the weight looks like compared to what it was last year, the year before, etc. Don't have an answer right now, but it's a very good question. And I need a name for you. Because you called in on like a weight question, I have this urge to call you like Fat Tony, And since I don't want to spend all day on this, I think your name's Fat Tony. All right, we're back with Andy from Kansas, which is where we left off last time.
Ryan, it's Andy. One more suggestion and then one question. You were asking on a recent pod about what to do with PackersGames.com. What kind of, if you click on the game that's coming up, could it be linked to something? I'm curious if your son would do some sort of game preview, whether that's his audio overlaid with some video highlights or what.
That's not a bad idea.
Or just him talking, but if he wanted to put together some sort of a game preview, that'd be fun. I know it's maybe not what you're looking for as far as how do you push the site into something that's like subscribable. But then again, if he does a good job, anybody with good information, I don't care what age they are, you should listen to him, especially just the kid who's a fan. So thoughts there. Secondly,
appreciate it.
I got thinking about roster age, and I thought, okay, we all talk about the Packers being the youngest team, but I just think that there's a difference between the age of somebody on the roster and the experience age of somebody on the roster. What I mean by is Clark has been in the league for forever, and he's not even 30. It's like, well, he's still pretty young. Yeah, but on the field, he's not young. If you draft guys that are young and they get to the end of their 4 or 5 year rookie contract and they're still under 25 years old, it's like, okay, you can't just go by the age. So I guess my question is, what's the tipping point for you as far as should we keep carrying the youngest roster, roster by just straight calendar age, or does it not bother you because we know that the youth on our team, which is almost everybody, is experienced youth? Hopefully you understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Anyway, just a question there. I'd like to hear your thoughts. Bye.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like the MVP debate where there's some annoyance there because it's most valuable player and, should it be most valuable? Should we talk about like most exceptional? That way it's not just a quarterback thing, which is literally always going to be the most valuable. I think we do say youngest and mean least experienced. I don't know that, but I know that that's kind of what I mean and what I think of. And when you think about the discourse around it as far as, why do we give the Packers look what he did with the youngest team? Well, young doesn't. In fact, young is better as far as your athleticism and all that kind of stuff. If you can be young, if you, let's say you have 3 guys with 5 years of experience. This is impossible, but let's just say one is 35, one is 30, and one is 25. Or let's even say, 32, 29, and 21. Give me the 21-year-old who's, maybe not necessarily peak physical, but probably pretty close. A 21-year-old with 5 years of NFL experience? Heck yes. Again, I understand it's impossible. It's just a thought experiment here. Now, I do think the Packers are probably still the least experienced team, but it would probably be a better metric to start looking for least experienced teams, and rather than saying average age, average years of experience. I think that's a very good point, and I think we should probably start doing that because I think that's what we mean anyways. I mean, there's nothing wrong with looking at average age. You got a team with an average age of 30, it matters, but for different reasons. You're old, right? You're experienced, which is great. We assume you're experienced, but the point I'm trying to make is that you're old, so age makes sense in that regard. I mean, you can use whatever, but again, I think the point is we say young, we mean inexperienced. So that is a good point, and it would be interesting to kind of look into that. And again, I'm assuming we are still the least experienced team, but it would be a better metric to use. Andy, part 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Hey, Ryan, it's Andy. One more time. I had another thought. Rodgers going to the Steelers.
Yes.
I mean, that guy should be able to do whatever he wants. I don't know why it seems weird or controversial or, can he still play? He had quite a good season last year. I mean, just overall, considering his age, considering the Jets. So, yeah, I don't know why this is so strange. I mean, is this how people act when somebody that they break up with finds somebody else and they're like, I don't know if they should.
Yeah. By the way, yes. If my girlfriend breaks up with me and then goes and finds somebody else, I don't necessarily. Maybe I'm a bad person, and this has never happened to me, so I don't know. But I'm probably not going to wish to them a super happy life together. You know what I'm saying? Probably should. Especially if they were like toxic at the end of our relationship and started kind of sabotaging it. And then at the end said, I'm going to go find somebody else. And then broke up with me while actively looking for somebody else. And then go found somebody else that was way worse than me. And it ended in disaster because they were just, looking for some kind of a big rebound and thought that they could do better and thought the grass was greener. Yeah, I'm going to laugh at them a little bit. Ultimately, on the outside looking in, as a mature adult, I can still say, even if it's not me that got broken up with, you probably shouldn't have been toxic with that relationship, and having like a chip on your shoulder and going and finding somebody just to get back at your partner, probably not the right thing to do. But I wish you happiness in your life, of course. Yeah, I hope you find a good, stable, happy relationship, which is impossible in this situation with Rodgers because he's at the end of his career. He's only getting small one-year deals at this point, but you get the idea. I wish you peace and happiness out there somewhere. But still, probably shouldn't have done all that.
It seems so strange. Such a drama thing. Really, my biggest question is what are the Steelers doing? I mean,
right,
people
that is the question.
Compare the Packers organization to the Steelers, right? They're very consistent. They're constantly successful. They're kind of on the obviously Green Bay's on the smaller end, but Pittsburgh is not a huge city compared to some of the others. Mm-hmm. They just seem to be passionate and serious about building a good roster. And not that this is a bad move per se, but imagine if the Packers picked up a 41-year-old quarterback.
Yeah, can't imagine it.
Had his prime already passed. We'd be asking, what are the Packers doing? Why all of a sudden are they bringing in an old quarterback? Like, how does that help us in the future? I mean, if you think about it, are the Steelers trying to push towards a playoff push? Rodgers signed a one-year contract, so most likely after this year, he's not going to be in that role. So why push to try to make the playoffs? Not that that's a bad thing, but just looking to a future roster, right? And are they a good enough team, really, to like make a deep push in the playoffs? So if everything kind of goes chalk here, so they're going to maybe get to a wild card, maybe get to a divisional round, and now you're looking at picking at what, 25 or
right.
something like that, 26.
We're not getting one of those quarterbacks.
You need a quarterback. So how you?
And by the way, again, I don't know how this is going to shape up, but just an early glance, tons of quarterbacks and some really prominent. Like, this is a good year to get a quarterback. This would have been a great year to pay Justin Fields to be your quarterback, tank, which, by the way, I think they did try to get Justin Fields, but he's, whatever. Whatever. I mean, get the deal done with him, or Russell Wilson, who apparently was also an option for them. Get Kirk Cousins. I don't care. Fail. You need to fail. Rodgers is not bad enough for this. The defense with Rodgers and Debo, you're going to accidentally win way too many freaking games, even if things go south. This would have been a great year to have a bad year and bounce back. And let me let you finish because you're almost done here.
Going to get a quarterback in the draft if that's their plan,
right.
Obviously. But it would be for the Packers, and you know it is, when you need a quarterback and you're picking 26th. I don't know what other draft capital they have to trade up, blah, 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 but it just seems weird. If the Packers and the Steelers are similar as an organization, the Packers would never make this move
right.
to get a one-year-old quarterback. So why are the Steelers? All right, bye.
What it feels like to me, and you're right, that this is not what the Packers are doing. It's not what I ever thought the Steelers would do. It feels a lot like what you see from other teams who are desperate. I think Tomlin, who's been there forever, is on the way out. He's on the ropes. And maybe he has a lot of pull there, and it could be the same for the GM or whatever. I don't really know that whole situation. But I think there are people there that realize they're on the verge of getting fired and they need to win. And if they do go through with that whole tanking strategy or whatever, when they go and find the new quarterback, they're going to find a new coach and GM too. Listen, if you want to say, let's keep Tomlin and the GM, let's just reset or whatever, I guess fine. And the whole thing is so short-sighted. Like, let's make a plan now. I know you don't ever make a plan to tank. I get all that, whatever. Football is stupid that way. I would. Like, if I'm the owner of the Steelers, I'd be having to sit down with the guys and being like, look, let's just put all the cards on the table. Things have not been going great. Tomlin, I love you. Like, you're awesome. There's questions on whether or not we should keep this going. I'm personally struggling on whether or not the league has moved past you or if we're just kind of failing to provide you with the talent that you need. You haven't really had a quarterback since Ben Roethlisberger. So I wouldn't want to, if we had a bad year, just fire you outright. I would want to see what we could do with a new quarterback because you're a phenomenal coach, a phenomenal culture guy. The players love you probably more than any other coach in the NFL. Most beloved coach probably in the NFL that I can think of. It feels to me like the guys who are about to get fired are steering the team in the wrong direction for short-term success so that they can prolong their thing for like a year or two and hope that if let's say we get into the playoffs and then Rodgers leaves, first of all, we could try to talk him into coming back for another year as we, and then it becomes a problem of, hey, you want to come back? And by the way, we're probably going to draft a quarterback. But he's going to be a late first-round guy. He'll have to sit for a while. Like he'll never challenge you. He's never going to honestly challenge you for as long as you actually want to play. You know what I mean? So you come back just one more year and help this guy out a little bit, and then, you get another legit run because we went to the playoffs. Why couldn't we win a Super Bowl? And we're going to do all this great stuff in free agency, assuming we can. I don't know. But it feels like a short-sighted desperation play by people that know that they're on the verge of getting fired. And they know that the easiest way to get fired is miss the playoffs. The easiest way to keep your job is to make the playoffs. And I think that's as deep as they're thinking right now. And they think that Rodgers gets them to the playoffs and gets them to keep their job for another year. And you're right. That's not what I would have expected from the Steelers. It's not what I would have expected from the Packers. And but I do think that that's what's happening. And it sucks a little bit to see a team that should not be going down that road, seemingly going down that death spiral kind of a road. And I do think ultimately you're screwing yourself. Whereas, long-term, Tomlin maybe could have kept his job if things didn't, and maybe they do go south anyways, but if they do with Rodgers, he probably gets fired. But if the most ideal situation is we get a top 10 pick, we get one of these top quarterbacks, and we allow Tomlin and this coaching staff to try to build him up and see what they can do. And if he can't do it with them, then maybe it's time to move on. But let's give him one last legitimate shot with a quarterback. Give him a couple years to work with the guy, see if they can build him up, see if we can get this thing going, and go from there, you know? But instead we're doing this, and I see it being a very short-term. And who knows, maybe Tomlin's like, a couple years of this and I'm ready to retire anyways. I don't know. I'll go coach college football for a while. Give me one good, legit run with Rodgers, and again, maybe Tomlin doesn't want to start over. Give me one solid run with Rodgers. Let's have some fun. Maybe we'll do a second year, and I'm off. I'll go coach freaking high school football or something. I don't care. All right, why don't we take our first break? We'll come back. We got one more Andy from Kansas, and then we got Aiden, Nate, and we'll see from there where it goes. We'll take a break. We'll be right back.
Hey, Ryan, it's Andy from Kansas. If you have the time, would like to hear your take on some of the OTA news, headlines, whatever from other teams in the league. Obviously, NFC North teams, as well as any other opponents that we play in 2025. As far as the Packers-Steelers matchup, I just hope that it is the kind of game that spurs both teams on to, improve throughout the year, no matter what happens in the game. If you remember, in 2014, the Packers played the Patriots. I think it was week 13, and we won a 26-21 game. One of Mike McCarthy's best coaching efforts, I think, in his whole Packers career. Unfortunately, that was not the Super Bowl preview that a lot of people thought it would be. We, of course, lost in Seattle, but the Patriots ended up winning the Super Bowl that year. I'm wondering, I don't really think Pittsburgh's a Super Bowl contending team. I think we're closer than they are. I just hope that whatever the result is it gets whichever team who won or lost to really start taking things, even more seriously than they already are. I kind of wish it was later in the season, like that Packers-Patriots matchup. It would have been fun to kind of see if those teams were, on their way into the playoffs. It's a little early for that, but I just hope that it makes a difference to the Packers as far as no matter what really happens in that game. Looking forward to it. I think it'll be just a fun thing to kind of see, and I think we'll win. But
the only thing I would think, as far as putting it earlier or later, my thought process is Rodgers being older. I don't know that I would want late season Rodgers against the Packers. Not that he's guaranteed to break down. I don't know if he did last year, not that I know of, but just in general, when you're older, your body doesn't hold up as well. So if you want like a real primo Packers-Steelers matchup, you don't want to go too early because Rodgers just got to Pittsburgh. You want to let him kind of feel it out and get into some kind of a relationship with his guys, but I wouldn't want it to be really late either because I'd be worried about injuries and especially the age of Rodgers. So if it was me and you were just asking what's the ideal place to put that matchup, it's probably going to be middle of the season if you want a really good matchup. If you want like the most drama, maybe put it at the end because good chance at least one, if not both, are fighting for playoff contention. And like you said, playoffs are on the mind, so some people could be thinking, could this be a Super Bowl preview, all that kind of stuff. I mean, that's going to happen anyways, but might even be more likely the earlier on it is because you can pretend things earlier than you can later. Aiden call looked like a false alarm, so we'll go to Nate.
Hey, Aaron, it's Nate. Just calling in because I wanted to talk about our two most recent quarterbacks in Green Bay, because I just think it's interesting that with Aaron Rodgers signing the new contract and Brett Favre with his Mississippi charity scandals, that both of our former quarterbacks ended up being Steelers.
But good one. Blake's dad.
Hey Ryan, this is Pizzle.
What's up?
Just got the Jaire news. Not happy, dude. Not happy that they cut him. Not happy that they got rid of him, period. And really surprised they couldn't get anything for him. I just don't understand. I thought we were kind of heading in the right direction, and then it just crumbled. Not a good day today. Not a good morning, I should say. All right, later.
Yeah, and I think the fact that they couldn't work out a trade, I mean, obviously Jaire wasn't really willing to be flexible on that, but it just kind of goes to show the value that he actually has and the position that you're in. I mean, again, you could just go from where I was talking about and saying just massively overpay him, who cares? Obviously, that's not a super serious position to have. And so if you look at it and say, look, we're willing to pay you what you're worth, or we're willing to trade you if we can find a trade partner. And the fact of the matter is nobody was willing to trade for him on his contract because 0 people were willing to pay that contract, period. And he really wasn't willing to take any kind of a serious pay cut, I guess. I guess really those are your 2 only options. It sounds like you can cut him or you can play him on his current contract. Like I said, I probably would have just kept him on this current contract. However, I've been talking for a while that if you want to build the best possible team, you need to make sure that what you're paying people ideally is below what they're worth. Every dollar you spend over what a person's worth is an efficiency, and it leads to you having a less good team. And as much as we can say, for this year, certainly it would make sense because we got all this money. Who really cares? Going into next year, though, the salary cap is not nearly as clean. And even if you say we get rid of him next year, well, we have a significantly higher cap hit as opposed to if we had cut him this year. You know what I mean? So we're going to have more money next year by not paying him this year. There's also an element of, again, when you think long-term, he's not sticking around. I mean, one of the offers they said is, can we just work out a 1-year deal and we'll let you walk next year? And he said no. So even that, you're kind of already in the mindset of, what do we have to do to get 1 more year? What is it worth to get 1 more year? And at that, you have to assume the odds are it's not going to be 1 more full year. So sounds like they put a ton of work into it and, did the best they could. But between those 2 options, it became clear that, the second option of just pay him exactly where he's at was never really an option, and we should have known that. The question is, could they have come to some kind of an agreement? And it just sounds like the answer is no. Jaire was not willing to be reasonable on it, wanting guaranteed money and everything, not really being open to the idea, not really being willing to accept the fact that he's going to get paid as a guy that's pushing 30 and has played less than 50% of snaps over the last several years. So we are where we are. This was coming eventually. There was a very, very, very low chance he was ever going to be back next year. So it's kind of a matter of how much of your future success are you willing to sacrifice to be potentially maybe a little bit better this year. That ultimately ends up being the question. And the Packers decided that they weren't going to do the significantly wrong short-term thing in order to maybe be a little bit better this year. And that assumes that he would be healthy this year.
Hey, Ryan, this is Andy from Kansas. We are just an hour or so away from heading up to Wisconsin for our family trip.
Mm-hmm.
And Packers just announced they were going to release Alexander, and went to the Twitters and gloom and doom all over the place there. But okay, let's be realistic here, fans. Tell me and show me. I'll be the film guy. Show me on the film the last couple of seasons where you see Jaire's play and be like, we can't manage without this guy. What's happening? Where's our defense going to go?
It's really a tough sell, and I'm seeing Packers fans and Bears fans doing this, where it's like, well, now we're doomed. It's like, you understand he hasn't been playing for us, right? Like, you get that. And you also have to understand, if he's played less than 50% of snaps in the last, 2 to 3 years, that the weeks that he was playing, a lot of those, he's playing hurt. So he's not even 100% in those games. So we have not had 100% Jaire since, I forget, I just went through the whole thing. If it was, 2022 was his last kind of decent year. And then before that was 2020. And then 2018 he was injured. I think 2019 and 20 he was good. 2021, he was injured. 2022, I think he was okay, and then 3 and 4, he didn't play. It's just, and then again, how many of those games that he did play, he was injured, and it's just, I don't know. It's just, it's a silly thing to say, now what are we going to do? I don't know, the same thing we've been doing for years, I guess.
Okay. I mean, you can't show that he's been stellar. I like the guy. I think he's a very interesting guy. I think he brings a lot of spirit. I'm not going to diss on him. I don't really care where he ends up going, because I don't think he has a track record of getting on the field. Had he come to the mandatory minicamp this year, he probably would be standing next to Savion wearing the red jersey, to be honest.
Yeah.
You could even argue that Goody should have traded him last offseason, had he been able to with the contract, which I don't think he was, which is probably why he didn't do it, and considering how little he played. I'm not saying that we're going to be perfectly fine, but I am saying this guy's not falling, and we just got to take a look and see what Hafley can do. I mean, I think he's gotten a lot of good out of, like, Valentine, for example. Who knows? All right, bye.
Corner is a weakness on this team. That is my assumption. I don't 100% know that. I think a lot of people are very optimistic that Valentine, Hobbs, and Keyshawn and Bullard, whatever that combo ends up being, that's going to be good enough. Maybe. I don't know. I don't think so. I'm going to need a lot more proof before I jump on that bandwagon. But the bottom line is, it was a need even with Jaire. Not only because Jaire is just one of 3 positions, but because Jaire is a short-termer. He's not going to be here much longer. So corner has always been a need. It will remain a need. And then I said, well, why didn't you address it until earlier in the 7th round? Okay. For the billionth time, number 1, the draft falls how it falls. This is not a supermarket. You don't just say, I'll take a good corner now. If a better player is there, you take the better player. Number 2, almost all of the top corners were old and had massive injury issues. It really was not a very good corner class. You can talk about their production on the field if you want, but with the frustrations they have with Jaire, taking a 23-year-old guy that has missed significant time due to injury seems like a foolish decision based on, wait for it, desperation, which I know is the fan motto: be as desperate as you possibly can and do as desperate of things as you possibly can. But sometimes things just don't work. Why didn't you do anything in free agency? Because there were no free agents. There was one guy that was kind of good that went to Detroit. And you know what? They probably tried to get him and didn't get him. Because again, it's not a supermarket. You can't just buy people. You have to compete with 31 other teams, which means you have a significantly lower than 50% chance of getting any one prospect. Every time we don't get somebody that you like, it's a failure. Okay, you understand that means that every GM is going to be a failure most of the time, right? Just want to make sure we're clear on that. You don't think you got some kind of a great talking point by saying they failed in this. No kidding. Just like you're going to fail in drafting prospects most of the time. Because you're only one of 32 teams. You have a 1 in 32 chance of getting any one prospect, but you failed to get them. No kidding. Duh. How many picks do you think we have? So it's a need, and it's going to be a process to try to fix it. It's going, you hope that the chips fall the way that you would like them to, where next year is a phenomenal corner class, where there's just tons of great options and a great corner free agent class. And if that's the case, they're going to fix it, or they're at least going to take multiple attempts to fix it. If it's not, they probably won't. And coming on here, on social media or wherever, and saying they didn't do anything is not really a very well thought out argument. What did they do compared to what their options were is a little bit more thought out of a, freaking thought process.
What's going on? So my firefighter, how y'all doing?
What's up?
I'm just calling because I'm pissed about the Jaire Alexander situation. Had a kind of effed up week. All week, my mom passed away.
I'm sorry, dude.
Earlier this week, we just had a funeral. So then I'm like, okay, Packers always make you feel better. And then we cut him like for nothing. Like, it would have been better to trade him for a 7th round pick than just to cut him. Like, we could have easily got a 7th round. I don't care how much you're making. It's a 7th round pick. But either way, I just think it's dumb. I'm at the station today working, but it's like the whole point is to try your best to win a Super Bowl. And I can't honestly, like, with him, I can say, oh yeah, we have a great chance of getting to the Super Bowl or winning the Super Bowl, like a great chance if the offense plays like it should. Now, without him, like, how many Super Bowl teams won without a top corner? I mean, or just even the number 1 corner. That would be something that I guess you could look up and see, like the last 5 Super Bowls where that number 1 corner ranked in the league. But I just think it's crazy. Like, we're hoping for 2 7th round picks to help us with King and Robinson. It's just, I don't think it was a smart move at all. And I feel like, I'm a bootlicker, as they say. I feel like he's very smart, but I feel like he got full of himself instead of him saying, all right, I apologize, like, we can make amends, like, kind of like he did with Aaron Rodgers, like, just make amends with him, like, pay him what he want, we got the cap space, and then cut him next year, and it's not a free agency, so at least you can sign somebody to fill in the spot. The timing is wrong. Now he's going to probably go somewhere that's got a good chance to win the Super Bowl if he's smart, and now they're going to have a number 1 corner. Even if they only play half the games, that's half the games you have a better chance of winning with him than without him. So I'm very pissed off about it. And like I said, we cut him for nothing. So any team, yeah, he might not make the same amount of salary, but it's just dumb. Like, watch how many teams will want to sign him. It's going to be crazy. And it's be effed up if he go to a rival. Anyway, we need Jordan Love to play like a top 5 quarterback and just try to outscore people. I mean, we're Packers, we're used to that, but it took us so long to find a good cornerback that I just think it was a dumb move. Anyway, we go back though.
Yeah, like I said, I was on the side of keeping him. I listen, I don't think they could have got a 7th for him. When you talk about the Buffalo Bills and whatnot, they were not willing to pay his salary, period. That was what was being reported, just unwilling. The only way they would have taken Jaire in a trade is if Jaire was willing to restructure his contract and he said no. So as crazy as that sounds, I think it really goes to show what his value actually was. No team in the NFL, and I'm sure every one of them would have wanted Jaire to some degree. Even the Packers wanted Jaire. But he was just completely inflexible. I mean, remember, this was being reported a while ago. His preference was to be cut so that he can go out and get his own deal done with somebody else. So he's not going to be flexible. And so the Packers are saying, please work with us, and he kept saying no. And then they'd work out a deal to trade him to a team like Buffalo, and it's like, okay, we got a deal done. Would you be willing to no, I'm not restructuring anything. I'm not doing anything. So I don't think trading was an option, period, because nobody was willing to pay his salary. And then you got to look at it and say, we would have paid $25 million against the cap for Jaire. That's a very serious amount of money. $16 million in cash, $25 million was the overall cap hit. If he plays 4 games this year, or 6 or 7, I mean, again, I come from a place of, well, we have the money, but we also got to remember next year we're really tight on money. We're going to have to restructure a bunch of people and whatnot. If we take all this money, the $45 million or whatever that we're going to carry over next year, and cut that in half so that we can get a handful of games out of Jaire, which is a short-term solution, and you even said, we'd cut him next year, so we're not talking about, and then that was the thing. When I was talking, I'm talking long-term. I'm not talking about 1 year. I want to continue paying Jaire. I mean, in my mind, if it's just 1 year, then forget it. Either restructure or trade or whatever. But 1 year means nothing. So I think with this, just like with a lot of other things, we needed to do a better job of coming to terms with a post-Jaire Packers team. Just like with Rodgers. A lot of people just could not get over it. They could not ever get to the point where they could accept that a team without Rodgers could survive, could thrive, and as long as he's willing to play, he has to stay. He just couldn't handle it. And I think with Jaire, it got to the point where the injuries are so bad. You mentioned he just needed to reconcile. I think the reconciliation was essentially done. They were working on a contract to try to get something done. So it wasn't a matter of, I just hate you so much. It was, whatever, fine, we'll work something out. But he just was completely unwilling to do anything. Packers came up with a contract that I think was completely fair. It was a 1-year deal so that he could move on from there. It was, very heavily incentive laden and all this stuff, so he could still make a ton of money despite not being productive in the past. It's really the only way you get that done is with incentives. So, I mean, at the very least, we got to acknowledge that it's really not very straightforward as far as the option of just pay him. Whether that's your preference is fine, but I don't know that it was an obvious preference. I don't really think ego played into it. I don't really think trade was an option. And so it's kind of like, are you going to pay him $25 million plus whatever it's going to cost next year with all the dead cap money to get rid of him, and he's still going to be able to go to a competing team, and all the stuff that would be upsetting about not having him this year will apply to next year. And remember, when I was going through the whole thing, as far as him being able to help us, number one, is he even going to be healthy for the postseason? Number two, remember, we lost that game against the 49ers because of a Jaire injury where he was too scared to put his shoulder down and tackle somebody, and so he ended up missing the tackle, set up the field goal, we lose a playoff game. All right, let's take our final break. We will come back with some Bramble.
Hey, Packy. Bramble here.
What's up?
Finally. Chemotherapy takes a long time. Radiation sucks. They made us sick. But finally, the cancer is gone. Thank you. Judy bounced his ass out the door. Go, Pack, go.
I was genuinely thought maybe you were talking about yourself. You're going through chemo. I was like, oh, dude, that's terrible. I had to kind of pause on that to see where that was going, though. But, yeah, I mean, that's the other side of this that isn't even really being talked about as much as the contractual financial side, and the injury side is also the character side. Remember, there was that quote from Matt LaFleur after he got suspended that it wasn't just that one thing, it was a lot of things that were kind of building up with him. There's been a lot of tension, there's been a lot of questions about, is he kind of maybe taking himself out of games they feel like he could play, and all this stuff. And again, I think at the end of the day, we have to recognize it's essentially over with Jaire. We can prolong it another year, but at the cost of $25 million this year plus whatever the dead cap hit is next year. Let's just say it's $15 million. We're talking $40 million for 1 year, and that's, if we're playing the odds, $40 million for a half a year, which if that's the case, you're talking about $80 million essentially. You see what I'm saying? Like the math is pretty wild when you think about it. And that's for, maybe a half a season of a guy that isn't necessarily what we want culturally in our locker room, and we know he's not a part of our long-term plans anyways. It gets to be really hard for me to continue making the case, just pay him. You can make it, and I did make it, but it just, it's definitely not a very straightforward thing at the very least.
Hey Ryan, it's Drew from Green Bay. Hopefully it's working this time. I had an update.
Look how loud and clear that sounds. My goodness.
On my computer last time, and so it was all quiet because my input got messed up. But anyways, all I was saying was about the helmet stuff with the spray painting, or not spray painting, but airbrushing, I mean. And I think Maryland has also been airbrushing their helmet for a long time. So, yeah, I think it's kind of cool. And I think it's cool, like, there's a balance. There seems to be a good balance for the Packers between being traditional and then also being the first in the NFL to try something new.
Heck yeah,
if indeed we do airbrush them, because that'll be the first team to airbrush their helmet in the NFL. But then also, it is official now. Jaire Alexander is released. I'm sure you'll bring that up in your next podcast. And I don't know. I'm pretty upset about it. I think like our chance at a Super Bowl was for him to stay healthy and have Hobbs, Alexander, and then your favorite of Nixon
Sure.
or Valentine, and now you have Hobbs, Nixon, and Valentine all out there,
and that assumes they all stay healthy all year. I mean, you lose one guy. I mean, depth is kind of where I'm scared the most. Now, we do have Bullard, who is pretty much who we played with all year last year, so that's not really going backwards. And hopefully Kalen King or anybody else can kind of step into that role. The bar is pretty low, so it's not like it's like, oh, they're undrafted free agents or seventh-round picks or whatever, so you can't have high expectations. Well, it's not a very high bar, I mean, I'm not trying to be massively insulting here, but based on what Nate Hobbs has done in his career, based on what Valentine has been, they've been good. They haven't been great. And even good maybe is being a little generous. I don't know, but yeah, I mean the top end talent is not great. The depth is not great. Now the counterpoint to this though is I think all three guys are in the same camp: Valentine, Keyshawn, and Hobbs, as far as how good they are. When you look at the rest of the NFC North, I think all three teams have a player that's better than our best guy. But I also think all three have a third corner that's worse than our third corner, which also matters, especially when you're talking about a sort of weakest link position. Maybe not necessarily weakest link, because if your number one is on their number one, it's kind of the gap between them. But to some degree, it's a weakest link thing, and I do think that's one thing we have going for us is we have a pretty high floor. The problem though is, again, the depth. If we lose one guy, the floor drops out. Bullard, at least last year, was quite low.
Unless someone like King or someone steps up,
right.
And that just seems like so much worse. And then if we have an injury, then then we're relying on King or Robinson or whoever steps up. So we have very little depth. We waited until the 6th round to draft a guy. Seemingly, you'd know that they weren't gonna. They knew what their intentions were. So yeah, I'm just so frustrated with that move. I would have rather paid him. I think it would have been fine. I could have moved on next year, or the year after. But anyways, have a good one.
Well, and again, the whole thing with why didn't we just move on next year? Why would it have been better next year? I mean, the assumption is, we would just go out and load up on corners. Well, we didn't do that this year. There's only so much you can do. I mean, we're at best we draft a corner in maybe the first 2-3 rounds, and then we're relying on a rookie to replace Jaire. There's no guarantees in that. I mean, we drafted Jordan Morgan in the first round. He didn't do a freaking thing for us, right? We got somewhat higher expectations for Golden this year, especially being a wide receiver. But do we know anything about Belton? Are we positive he's going to come in and just dominate year one? I don't even know if he's going to start. So I don't know that we can just guarantee that everything's going to be fixed next year, so it's fine to let him go. We're not going to replace Jaire by next year. We're not going to have a, all-pro corner just starting next year magically. Could we do something at corner? Sure, we could do something. We're not going to replace Jaire by next year. So really all we're doing is kicking the can down the road. Whatever disastrous problems we're going to have this year by not having Jaire are going to be the same disastrous problems we're going to have next year by not having Jaire. So, all things being equal, would I like to have him? Yes, I would. I would like to have Jaire for whatever amount of time he can play here. I would have preferred him to be here. But it's really hard if somebody is trying to be serious and sticks the financials in your face and all the cancerous problems and everything else that were going on and say, be frickin' serious and tell me that the right decision is to keep him. It's really hard with a straight face to say, yeah, that's definitely the best decision. All right, I'm going to leave it at that. Got to go through some training camp notes here. Again, PackersGames.com. Today is the first day that we've officially actually done this thing. So we got to see how this all pans out. Hopefully everything's good, but most people kind of got in too late to be able to bet. Go sign up at PackersGames.com. I'll try to get the Google thing set up so it's a little easier. I don't know if that's a barrier for people or not, or if they care. I always sign in with just Google. It's easy to just push the button. I'll try to get that set up today. I also want to get something set up for social media so you can kind of share Number one, like your metrics, like I'm 4-0, 100%, and this. Also the questions, if there's like a question that popped up, to be able to share that, and then like answered questions, like, oh, see, I nailed this one kind of thing. Just, it's good to be able to kind of, I want it to be like a known thing where people are sharing and being like, look, I nailed this question, or I'm doing this. I don't know exactly how best to do that with social media, but those are the plans for today, is see how today goes with the question and answer. Create new questions for tomorrow's training camp, so be ready for that. You can set alerts, email alerts, so you'll see when the questions get posted, so you can jump right over there with links to go answer those questions. And then I want to get the sign up set up and the social media stuff set up. And again, any bugs that you see, any issues, any thoughts as to how this could be better or cooler or more fun or whatever, shoot those to me and we'll see about doing that, because that's the point. It's not just for me to hang out. It's trying to make this like the best little Packers hangout place with all the little tools you want, with your schedule here, with the games. Like, I want to create some new games. I don't know why I love the horse racing game. I might just do that, where you could take your coins and go bet on horse racing just for fun. I actually built the game just for fun over somewhere else, but I could maybe bring that over to the site. That may be a place, maybe it wouldn't contribute to the score, but maybe you can just like wager coins and you can actually win and lose coins up to, I think, the maximum. I'm trying to keep it where you can't just stack coins. I don't know. We'll see. Something else you can do with your coins. The horses, by the way, would be NFL teams, would be the way that would work. I also had a thought for, you guys loved playing Jeopardy on YouTube, which was a lot of fun. It's probably too much, and now we're getting into cost because AI is a part of it, but I just wonder if there's a way to like AI generate Jeopardy categories and questions, and then you can play Jeopardy. And you can go, I don't know, plug in 500 coins or whatever, and you can go ahead and play a round of Jeopardy with generated stuff. I don't know. This is where I start getting into bigger stuff that I probably should just be like, all right, that's a little too far. But but I can do it. That's the thing. So it's like, if you can do it, why not freaking do it? I don't know. But it's just going to keep growing. It's just going to keep getting better. I did add the punt distance calculator, if I didn't tell you that. All the tools right now are in the premium category. So if you want access to that, that's what also I need to add, is a little, what do you call it? Like pricing page, so you can sign up for a premium account. I think it's only $4 or $5 or something. But anyways, y'all have a good rest of your day. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye-bye.